You want me to have him FaceTime you?
Oh man, we're already live. All right.
We can't be live. I don't see you over here on YouTube.
Oh, it's...
There you go. Stream starting soon.
What's up, everybody? It is December 3rd, 2018, and we got a very special guest here, Robert Beadles. How you doing, Rob?
Hey, I'm doing great. It looks like a Monarch Monday, at least from where I'm sitting. We got three guys from Monarch at the top of the screen, so it's a takeover.
Yeah.
I like it. Monarch Monday.
That would do. It's Tuesday here, though.
Yeah, it's Tuesday in Australia. Yeah, they do everything wrong down under.
How's Bitcoin's price tomorrow, James?
Yeah.
I just want the lotto numbers.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, when is this bleeding going to stop, guys? I don't. Everyone has been saying, "Hey, Backed is going to come in, and Fidelity is going to come in," and we're constantly seeing the price fluctuate up and down, and we're having a hard time even breaking through 4,400. So what are we going to do now?
Well, you're just going to wait for the big guys to stop, taking all these crazy, movements in the market. We're going to be basically, once they've had enough and they're like, okay, we've bled it dry enough. We've got enough Bitcoin. Our bags are big enough. All right, let's go the other way, guys. Let's raise this thing to the roof and then dump it up there again. And everybody's going to start buying at the top and they'll sell it again. It's this, it's basically everybody just following the same pattern over and over again. That's what's going to happen.
So I hate doing this to anybody, but projections. Let me know projections, guys. Like, what are we looking at? We're looking at end of the year. We're looking at Q1. When do we think that we're going to actually? I don't even want to talk about bear and bull run. When are we going to at least hold our own water here? When we actually break over 4,000 and stay there?
Q1 of next year, man. Yeah. Q1. There's no good news. Everything right now is out to basically drive the price down so they can keep gobbling it up at low prices. Yeah. There's no good news. We didn't get back. We didn't get the ETFs. Every time you turn around, it's SEC doing this, SEC doing that, going after ICOs, going after influencers. It's like there is no good news. So right now, it looks to me like the price is going to keep going down for a bit. They're going to buy more. And then, Q1, hey, the ETFs back. Fidelity with their 1% of their $7.2 trillion is coming into the market. Then you'll start seeing it go the other way, I think. But I'm not a financial advisor. It's just my opinion.
True.
Yeah, it's going to take time. Yeah, it's going to be manipulated, as Beadles said, until the market cap's much bigger and it's harder to manipulate.
That's true. So, me, Jason, James, and Amal, all here on the stream constantly every Monday. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Rob. When did you get started? How'd you get started? What made you get started?
Yeah, what got you into crypto?
Yeah. What got me into crypto? All right, so I'll give you guys the really condensed, quick and dirty version. So I got married at 17, had to basically figure out how to make ends meet and, basically support my family. Already had a kid. So, created, my own businesses, my own companies, ended up creating a software company, started, building, basically applications for, like really big companies as well as, the government. Around 2008, you had the housing, market crash. You had, basically the crash that hurt, everybody across the planet. It forced me to, look at things a little bit differently. I wrote a book in 2010 kind of explaining how to, how to make money. It was free. The book wasn't free. It was like $5, but all the money went to charity. And it, basically talked about the financial institutions, how to make money in the market, stuff like that. Around 2011, a guy named Max Kaiser, a guy that, I like very much, kind of opened my eyes to Bitcoin. And so around 2011 is when I really started looking at, Bitcoin and, kind of progressed from there. Around 2017, my friends and family started asking me, lots and lots of questions about crypto. So we created the Crypto Beadles YouTube channel where we interview CEOs and founders, Met Snay, last year. We created Monarch together. So we've got the Monarch Monday up top. So basically, in a nutshell, I got into crypto because of Max Kaiser, right? And because of the, the financial institutions and everything that caused the financial crash, and looking for, an alternative to it.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's always interesting to hear what brings people in, if there's some sort of, if it was just, fast money, or if it is more of like an idealistic perspective. So I'm always interested to hear people that actually have an understanding of financial markets and economics that are like, yeah, we need to seek an alternative to the current system.
Yeah, in 1913, they basically, kind of paved the way for, the way things have always been and the way they want things to stay. And, Bitcoin kind of throws a monkey wrench in that. So that was something that made me pay notice to it and start investing, a long time ago, and dollar cost averaging every day since.
So, and this is a question for everyone here. What's keeping you guys still in? Obviously, we're seeing a 80% drop since early 2018. Why are you guys still here? While so many other crypto YouTubers, influencers, different funds, I know Amal and James, you guys are both working on your own separate projects as well. What's keeping you guys in here? What's keeping you guys in the space? Why the whole strong faith in Bitcoin?
Well, my faith is in blockchain, because we have work coming in all the time. Things are still happening. Blockchain's alive and well. It's just some of the cryptocurrency prices are down. Plus, you can trade them. There's always money to be made. There's still a highly volatile market. So if there's volatility, there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm kind of with James here. My bet is also on blockchain, and I think Bitcoin still has a long way to go. And to be honest, the 70–80% drawdowns on Bitcoin doesn't really faze me, because historically, if you look at the previous bull runs, the first one in 2011 had a 93% drawdown. The second one in 2015 and 16 went up all the way to 1,200 and came down to like 160, had a 87% drawdown. So right now, I mean, I think we're somewhere right around that area, 80 to 82% or something. So it really doesn't faze me that, we're down this much, because again, I do believe in blockchain, and I do think that Bitcoin still has a long way to go.
How about you, Rob? What's keeping you in this space other than Monarch?
Well, I mean, you said it, it was a word that you said. It was faith. I feel like a crazy person. I feel like one of those people that has seen something and nobody else believes you, right? Nobody believes you. They think you're crazy, but you've seen it with your own eyes, and it's there, it's real. I feel that way about blockchain and crypto. It's like I build it, I use it, I know what it is, I know what it's going to be. So for the people that are just kind of like freaking out because of prices only and because it's not completely built yet, I see what they don't. I see what they haven't yet. So once you've seen something with your own eyes, nobody can talk you out of it. It's kind of like maybe a religion of sorts. For me, it's faith.
That's true. That's true. And, there's a lot of people exiting this space right now. As you see, there's a lot of YouTubers, influencers, funds, like I said. I think, who's Novogratz's Galaxy? I think they're down like 80% this year, their fund.
It was 137 million, something like that.
Yeah, ridiculously low. And, why all of this sudden change of heart when there was so much enthusiasm coming into 2018? Why so much change of heart? Is it because people literally, can't fund their operations anymore? Or do you think there is actually some sort of lack of confidence in blockchain and specifically Bitcoin?
Well, I think all you have to do is look at CoinMarketCap, and the people that are all talking, that are flooding the market and stuff like that, it's because, they've lost a lot of money. And that's one way to really affect somebody is in their pocketbook, right? So it's hard to stay chipper and happy and, rah blockchain, when you've lost 85% of your money. But for people that aren't in it just for the money, they're in for the tech, I think they're going to be okay in the long run. But for the people that are watching it day by day, those people are probably not so happy. And that's why you've seen a lot of the YouTubers, you've seen a lot of them, just take a little break, right? They're like, okay, I'm going to jump off a roof, a bridge, slit my wrists, something. I need a break, right? So that's why some of them are just taking some time off, because they're in it for the wrong reason.
And I think all of you guys said this same thing is, you believe in blockchain, maybe not necessarily cryptocurrencies, but I feel like right now the binding glue is Bitcoin, right?
Yes.
So how do you guys feel about Bitcoin coming into the future and being a key pivotal role in this space? Because as we're seeing, I think blockchain is the future as well, but I think there's a centralized aspect of blockchain that is very usable for industries. How does Bitcoin kind of throw that off, and how do you guys see Bitcoin into the future, and do you see Bitcoin into the future?
I'll let somebody else talk. I've been talking over everybody.
I think definitely in the near term, Bitcoin is basically still going to be the alpha for some time. And, as we start to see different protocols and things develop on top of its second layer solutions, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. We've been hearing about Lightning Network for how long? Maybe once they can implement smart contracts and things like that, Bitcoin will become a more powerful thing. Obviously, it's got the most robust, longest blockchain and probably the largest development community in the space. So I guess ultimately it would come down to like maybe the developers need to decide which way they want to take it. There's been a lot of back and forth lately, and also the dilution from the Bitcoin Cash and its subsequent hard forks, I think, kind of taking away from the advancement of the technology in Bitcoin, in my opinion.
So you said that, hey, Bitcoin has a lot of backing, has a lot of people behind it still to this day. If it drops down to 2,000, I'm buying, right? And I think there's a lot of fundamental ideological buyers, even when it drops even lower, even though when there's a lot of FUD in the market. The whole problem is that there's not a central leadership or authority. There's no one to say, hey, this is the direction that we're going with Bitcoin. We're going to, enable Lightning networks, and everyone has to update their node to be a Lightning network node, or we're going to enable rootstock, and rootstock is going to now enable smart contracts. So is that a fundamental flaw in Bitcoin, or do you think that the open ecosystem is better? Go ahead, Amal.
I think it's a bit of both, right? You have to look at the space as a whole in its context, right? In its entirety, which is that we are a very nascent space, and you have to give credit where it's due in that we've already developed over the short time span of less than a decade of crypto in its existence. We've done quite a bit, but we still have, let's just say, another decade to go to actually make something impactful come out of the space. I mean, kind of like the internet, right? Like the first probably 5 or 10 years was fucking useless in terms of average, or in terms of mass adoption. But the next 10 years and the following 10 years, which is now essentially, it has skyrocketed into an unimaginable height. So that's, I think, we have to wait for blockchain and crypto to actually grow. And I think the real money and the smart people from, say, Silicon Valley or all over the world, I think, are slowly getting into it. It's something that Jason quoted a while back, like there's something like 8% of American population that even heard of Bitcoin or are invested. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think it's lower in the States, and it was something like 12% in Canada or something like that, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, so think about that, man, like 8%, and globally, I bet we're probably less than like 2%, right? If that. Imagine like the rest of the world hearing the word Bitcoin or crypto almost as synonymous to the internet, over the next 5 or 10 years. That is what I'm really waiting for, and I think that still has a long way to go.
Yeah, so I see Bitcoin as gold. It's the big boss, but it doesn't make sense. It's archaic that we should have decoupling. We should have fiat pairings with all these cryptos and let them think for themselves. Once they start making money and have earnings reports, we'll have be able to value them on tangible things. So a lot of these projects do have fiat mechanisms, so you can put fiat in and buy their crypto and use that on the ecosystem, and some of them are starting to get business-to-business transaction and make money, and then there's going to be more of that, a more earnings report and more tangible valuations, and that's the future.
And that to that avail, Stellar and Ripple actually always, I think they do quarterly earning reports because they're centralized and they're They actually know what's going on in their own companies, while billion-dollar companies like Cardano and EOS have no liability to any of their investors or even their consumers, right? So do you see a shift of paradigm to a more centralized, institutional, enterprise-grade blockchain over decentralized, or are we still big fans of decentralization?
I think we can see with the SEC and everything that they're doing right now, there's going to be no such thing as, fully decentralized. Everybody's going to have to KYC and AML anytime they're within the confines of the U.S., whether they're touching U.S. investors, whether they're in U.S. exchanges, whether it's a U.S. project, you're going to have KYC and AML. So I think, our grand vision of a completely decentralized, ecosystem isn't going to happen that way in the United States. And it's, due in part to regulation. There's just no way around it. Sure, go ahead, be completely decentralized. You'll end up in jail. It's great, awesome, right? So, I think that's going to be something that definitely hinders the space.
Anytime there is a figurehead, you run afoul of the law, you're going to jail, right? So I guess that is one upside to projects like Bitcoin. Having no figurehead is that if the SEC decided that company was something illegal, nobody can really go to jail. The network just stays alive as long as people are still willing to mine it.
Yeah, and see, Bitcoin, what a lot of people don't understand, though, too, is while it is, yes, decentralized, while, yes, it doesn't have a figurehead, it doesn't have the Jeff Bezos, it doesn't have the Steve Jobs, it doesn't have that person driving the company forward. It has some of the best devs in the world. And while they may not always reach consensus, and while they may, take a lot longer to get the tech out there, normally you can believe in the tech, right? It's normally put together by some of the best people on the planet. And when you look at, a lot of these other projects out there, I've seen the code. We've seen the code. It's crap, right? And they've got billion-dollar valuations. It's like, dude, what is this, right? But with Bitcoin, they're a lot better. Will it be the end-all, be-all cryptocurrency? No, but it's the OG, right? It's original gangster that got us all where we're at. We all believe in it, and so that says a lot. But will it be the number one go-to for every single transaction, every type of medium? No, I don't think so. But it's going to always be a good store of value, in my opinion. I think.
Yeah. Going back to the things being persecuted in terms of the legality of the crypto and Bitcoins. I think Caitlin Long, this woman, she's like a Wall Street veteran. She worked in like Credit Suisse and Goldman Sachs, all these different companies, and she was a managing director. She started being a Bitcoin and crypto evangelist a couple of years ago. She said it best, where she said that the best things in technology or innovation have come out that once they were deemed initially illegal. And so I think crypto and blockchain is the same way. People frown upon it. They look at it as like, oh, this is just like a playground for, crazy people to sell drugs or whatever. But, again, if you go by what she's saying, you could see that people who, commit illegal activities, they're looking for things that are probably pretty efficient, anonymous, and this is kind of what the world needs too. Even though it's, in terms of centralization and everything, we may not like it, but it's something that the world is wanting.
So actually, this is something that occurred to me. Like, what do we think about the realistic possibilities of any coin with legit privacy features being well, obviously they can't be SEC compliant, but what do we think about them actually being able to operate in the United States? Because there are some actual use cases. Again, if you're saying like you're paying your employees on salary, maybe they don't want their salary exposed. That wouldn't be a good thing on a public blockchain. Do we think there's any chance for any real privacy to actually happen in the market?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, do I think something like Monero is going to be on all the exchanges? Probably not unless they have a way to turn off the ring signatures, just like Zcash does, right? So Zcash, they allow privacy, and then when it's on Coinbase, well, if you're going to send from Coinbase, there's no privacy, but you can send with privacy into Coinbase. But like Dusk Network, for instance. Now, I'm not shilling this project. I own Zero Dusk. It's just one of those regulatory compliant networks that has a privacy coin. And so stuff like that, I don't know that it's them, but there's going to be things like that coming out that will allow that transparency to like the SEC, to like these governing bodies, that if they want to look into the project and they want to look into the coins, they can. But for the public looking in, they can't see what's going on. So basically, to use their system, you have to KYC and AML. And there's a way of tracking those tokens for them internally, but the public can't see it. So something like that, I think, would happen. But something like Monero being widely adopted by exchanges in the US and for payroll, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think
That's a perfect answer.
What were you saying, James?
That was a perfect answer. That's exactly right.
Yeah, I think spot on.
So
I hear people all the time talking about privacy is not going to have any place. And I'm like, I disagree. I just don't think it'll quite have the place we might like.
Nobody wants their laundry out for everybody to see it, man. You're going to have some privacy, but the regulators got to make sure they know who the hell you are. So it's going to be like, it's going to be, you know, like a mixture of both of sorts.
So we talk about Monero because I think primarily has a first mover advantage, right? It has the ring signatures, and obviously there's other cryptocurrencies that have zero knowledge proofs. So does that first mover advantage, isn't that hard to kind of keep up with competing companies? For example, Bitcoin, it's slow, it's archaic, it's proof of work, which is I think it uses more electricity than the country of Poland, right? The whole Bitcoin network, which is absurd. So all these things that have first mover advantage, including Ethereum, which has the whole smart contract system behind it, and the companies right below Ethereum, Ripple, and Bitcoin, everything below, they're all essentially Ethereum competitors, right? They're all platforms. So how do you see a company combating Ethereum and their huge market penetration? How does a company come out on top of Ethereum? Things like Stellar, Cardano, EOS. How do they actually compete when Ethereum, essentially everyone is building on it, and no one's looking for XLM developers. People are looking for Solidity developers, right? So how do you really penetrate that market and that whole first mover advantage? You know, how does a privacy coin come out and beat Monero? How does a platform come out and beat Ethereum?
It's easy. We all know this stuff intimately because we're like the 1%, but the rest of the world, it doesn't matter what's best. It doesn't matter the first mover advantage in this little ecosystem that we're all living in. It's what the masses are forced to eat. So like if Facebook launches a cryptocurrency tomorrow, that's all anybody's going to know. They're going to know Bitcoin and Facebook coin. That's it. Monero, that's never going to be, you know, the Bitcoin or the Facebook coin. That's going to be like the hardcore crypto guys, privacy coin, fluffy ponies, you know, Rockstar. But let's face it, Monero's not going to make it into Coinbase, right? It's just it's not going to happen. But all the diehard OG crypto guys, Monero's their coin forever, no matter what. But we're like the 1%ers, you know what I mean? Then other 99%, they're going to go for, you know, whatever they're forced to eat. And that's what's going to happen, I think. It's not the best project that wins. It's the one that gets the most, you know, marketing publicity, has the biggest people pushing it, that we're all forced to use.
Well, and I would tack onto that works, right? Because Ethereum has had its scaling issues exposed, and obviously people are working on these sort of things, but in the meantime, that is a factor to contend with. So if there is a side chain or another platform or something that comes along that solves that, I think that will play very significantly into whether or not it can retain its first mover advantage.
Yeah, if a branded institution comes in and they can take that market share quite easily with their marketing power and their brand name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, Ethereum does have the most developers, so I mean, it obviously looks like it's going to be around for, you know, forever. I think EOS is there behind it a little bit, but yeah, I think Ethereum obviously has some strong legs, but they have some issues to work out.
So you spoke about that 1%er, and we are the very select few, and everyone who's watching right now, pat yourselves on the back because
they're the 1%ers.
Part of that 1%er, yeah, you are. And we heard them all saying, hey, this is just the early adopter stage. This is we're very early on in the space. So when do we hit that huge market penetration where anything like a .com back in 2000 was valued at hundreds of millions of dollars just because they had a website? When do we hit that? Or did we already hit that? Because 2017 was crazy. Are we going to see something else crazy like that?
It's going to be huge, man. It's going to be huge. As soon as you have a Facebook or a big institution pick this up and use it in daily commerce with hundreds of millions of users, it's game over. That's when it starts. We haven't seen that yet. All we've seen is some mom and pop retail investors saying, hey, buy some Bitcoin. It's going to the moon. You know, we saw some of that, right? But we haven't seen an actual real use case. Nothing freaking works yet. Nothing works. Nothing. I don't care what it is. Nothing works well enough that's going to replace something centralized that people use every single day. Once we have that, to the moon.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So there's right now there's what was I gonna say? Anyways, yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say.
I said it. Well, we'll have like an Oracle style company using blockchain, or we won't know we're using blockchain. We'll just be using it behind the scenes, and no one will know we're actually using it.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly it. Is it's just going to have the UX that's as simple to use as Coinbase, or rather, I'm sorry, as PayPal or Venmo or something like that. And as soon as the user experience is on par or better than any of the existing platforms, that's where it's got to be, at least, because ultimately most people don't really like, a lot of us are into this about sound money and decentralization and everything. Most people really don't give a shit about that. They just want something that works. And, from there, if it's on par with it, then maybe they'll start to care with the fact that, their money is sound, they own their private keys.
I completely agree. And even on the UX part, I think it, like I just sent my dad some Bitcoin. I think it's ridiculous that I have to send him 32 character alphanumeric address in order for me to send him anything. That's absurd. That's not usable. I can't be like, hey, copy this down 0x WTF OMG and get out of my life. That's pretty much what you have to do right now. Or you have to send it through text message. It's not very easy to use, and but in 2008, it rose out of the ashes of the financial crisis that we were having, the housing meltdown that we were having. Right now, we are seeing. We just saw today. Everything kind of jumped up. The tech stocks jumped up. AMD's up 11%, Nvidia's up 6%, Amazon's up 4 or 5%. And when you talk about Nvidia, AMD, Amazon, Apple, and all these other tech stocks that jumped up today, those small percentages are huge in the traditional market sense. To us, 10-15% is nothing in Bitcoin, but to them it's huge. But we're not really seeing that divergence everyone was hoping for. Hey, if the U.S. dollar collapses or if the market collapses, Bitcoin will stay resilient. That was the hope, right? That was the hope for 2008. Why aren't we seeing that? Why aren't we seeing that clear divergence that, hey, when the S&P 500 dropped, wiped out all the gains for 2018, we had an all-time high for, whether it be the Dow Jones Industrial Average or the S&P 500. We had all-time highs there, and we didn't really see much of a divergence when we saw that big drop back in October 2018. Why aren't we seeing that divergence?
Manipulation.
Yeah, I guess I don't really know if I can lean on the side of manipulation in this case, because, technically, like, the stock market was due for a correction. Okay, we've had a 10-year bull run in the stock market, and the U.S. dollar is actually strong. I just came back from abroad, and I was in Sri Lanka, and the currency exchange over there was 1 to 176.5, and I think just a year or two ago it was something like 1 to 130 or 140. So you can really see the dollar like gaining strength, not only against the smaller economies like Sri Lanka, but bigger economies like the Japanese yen and the Chinese yuan. And so the thing is, I don't know if you can peg the US dollar to Bitcoin, because I really don't think there's a correlation. And even there's a Bloomberg report that did a correlation between the S&P 500 and I want to say Bitcoin or crypto as a whole. There's really little to no correlation. So I think crypto itself moves on its own, but that's good because you want to hedge for the people from the traditional markets who know that, hey, if the stock market is falling, do we have another asset class where we can jump in and start making money? So yeah.
Well, it's viable because of its low correlation, but the perfect thing would be an inverse correlation. So we know when one market goes down, Bitcoin will do the opposite. And if we see more countries have hyperinflation problems and adopt crypto, and with the Marshall Islands wanting to have a cryptocurrency, their national currency, things like that will help find out an inverse correlation.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not there yet, but I think we're getting there, Again, crypto and Bitcoin still have a long way to go, guys. This space is not really on anyone's radar other than us 5, people on YouTube. So
Yeah, and I love hearing that statistic that, hey, Bitcoin is the best performing asset class in the last 10 years, right?
Mhm.
But best performing against what? It was basically dust. It was basically
Yeah.
the shittiest shit that only like idiot college students and drug traffickers like I'm not the drug trafficker. I'm the idiot college student. Yeah,
Sure.
who were using it, right? So is that a valid argument that, hey, it's such a good asset class because it's performing really great in the last 10 years because no one was using it, right? So even $1 million injected into the Bitcoin market or the crypto markets could pump this asset class to huge heights. So is that a real valid argument that, hey, crypto is actually performing really well, or is it just kind of leaning towards Rob, the manipulation side?
I know it's manipulation. I mean, dude, look how small our market cap is. I mean, if I look, just divide that by 50, that's how much cash is in there. Every dollar you put in raises it 50x, right? So you're telling me that these whales, that I see these OTC orders come by me, for 300,000 Bitcoin, 200,000 Bitcoin, these huge, stupid orders, they're buying it up and dumping some in the exchange. They're buying and selling amongst themselves. You see the market go up, you see the market go down, high frequency trading bots everywhere. I mean, dude, you got the CBOE, you got the CME, you've got all these different entities, all playing in the market right now. I mean, it's so small. Look, it doesn't take a huge institution to move the market right now. You've got just some whales moving it 10% at a time, and then when they join their buddies, I mean, dude, look what happened in January. That right there, I mean, you had people buying in. Why did it stop going up? You still had all the excitement, but somebody with some really big bags in a coordinated effort, in my opinion, decided this is good enough for us. Let's dump and crash this. Right. Yeah. I mean, what else is there? I mean, and then now you see it going up and down and up and down, and they're just making monies left and right. BitMEX is making record profits. I mean, dude, it's all about manipulation. Until we actually have some real money, some real institutions come in and start putting some real capital behind it, dude, it's going to be crazy like this for a while. So that's my 2 cents.
Because I think a lot of people are like, they think, oh, institutional money coming in is a bad thing necessarily. So let's talk about why it might actually be a good thing for the space. And I think a lot of people just don't understand that means bigger pools of money. Bigger pools of money means it's harder to slap the price around is the main reason we want this stuff coming in, obviously aside from
resiliency.
It makes our bags go up, but like that's the real reason is a larger pool and a larger distribution makes it harder for individual whales or groups of whales to slap the market around. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. Look at Apple stock. It's like what, 10 times, 20 times the entire size of our crypto market?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. That's one company.
Yeah.
Dude, it's manipulated. It's so manipulated.
So speaking of manipulation, NASDAQ officially confirmed that they will be launching Bitcoin futures. And if anyone knows about Bitcoin futures were launched, correct me if I'm wrong, was it November 2017 or December 2017?
I think it was supposed to be November.
It was November 2017, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it was supposed to be November, but I think they pushed it to December, yeah.
And we all know what happened in 2018. I'm still crying over it, but I'll get over it, right? But we have seen a massive drop in Bitcoin price. Is that partially due to investor sentiment getting wary, or is it partially due to futures, basically being able to manipulate futures? I could get an OTC deal, go short on it, sell the crypto, and then just keep repeating, regurgitating without any sort of regulatory board kind of oversight on any sort of regard. So do you think the NASDAQ futures that are coming, I think they said February in 2019, are they actually going to help the space, or is it just going to be more blood in the streets?
Well, we can't keep shorting, so by that time we might be ready to go up, and they'll start pushing it up. But yeah, so those futures, CBOE and CME were December. around the 13th was one of them, and maybe the 18th, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll just hopefully the manipulation goes the other way in February.
You know, I feel like, you know, I don't really like to call every part of, you know, the crypto space manipulated, because manipulation implies that, you know, there are some huge players, you know, working the market like crazy. And in some cases, I do believe that. However, here's the thing. You also need to understand like the basics of how markets work too, which is that when someone has accumulated a particular asset enough, they're going to push the price up, right? Get retailers to FOMO in. And while you're buying up here, they are selling your buys.
Right.
So you didn't know that, right? Like people don't know that. And because you don't know it, that's not manipulation. That's just, you know, basic economics of how financial markets work. That's really it.
There is that, but then there's also the big whales with huge bags behind the scenes that we're not talking about that are just wash trading with themselves, just to manipulate the market. They get the high frequency trading bots, they're trading amongst friends. They're just playing with the market in general, you know, so you have that. But you also, of course, like you said, you know, they're just going to sell at the top. Retailers are going to buy in, zero sum gain, you know, they're just going to, you know, rinse and repeat. But there is absolutely manipulation going on right now. I mean, we've got enough friends, we have enough friends out there that are behind the scenes that, you know, send us reports. You know, I've seen, my brother, I've seen the light. I know it's real.
And the thing that James said was, you know, we can't keep shorting. Well, I think that's your faith speaking, because I think we could absolutely keep shorting. I think we could short this down to $1,000, right? Easy by next year, by Q1, Q2, right?
That's
so
only $2,000.
So and right now, especially from what I've been seeing, you know, me and Rob running Monarch, and of course you yourself, you see a lot of wash trading. You see a lot of market makers inflating these markets. You know, you think some shitcoin on Binance actually has $20 million of daily volume? That's absurd, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to use the word shitcoin, but you know, I think that's a correct vernacular in this case. But it's still heavily inflated, these prices, right? And so when someone buys a ton of crypto and then sells it, while the market makers are still busy working away, it could drastically impact the market. You know, there's a lot of these cryptocurrencies that are in the top 100, even top 200, that I don't think actually anyone's trading. I think it's just market makers and wash traders and
you're telling me $785 million today through EOS, 65 million for Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah. So how is EOS and Cardano and these companies have no big market penetration when it comes to fiat pairings? You know, in the United States or even abroad, some. You know, where like if you look at Kraken and Bitfinex, you see those volumes aren't really. You know, the fiat pairings of those, even though Kraken has EOS and they have Cardano now, it's still not that big of a volume. All the volume is really through Bitcoin and those pairings, the Bitcoin pairing, not the fiat pairing. So it is still heavily inflated with the market makers and wash traders, really. 785 million in daily volume. Are you kidding me?
I mean, perfect example here to Snae's point is, you know, like Maker. They've got $456,000 in 24-hour volume. You would think that would be one of the less, you know, manipulated of sorts when it comes to basically just market making. And then, because they actually have a use case, right? Then you go to like EOS, and it's almost $1 billion. Come on, guys. Who is really using EOS right now? What is out there that really works?
Yeah. So our initial conversation started off with, you know, the comparison of Bitcoin. So here's the thing, right? I think you have to segment the conversation. Are we talking about Bitcoin price manipulation or altcoin? Because those are two completely different conversations. I totally agree though. Altcoins get wrecked and, you know, played around like a rag doll when it comes to manipulation, wash trading, etc. I think Bitcoin is a little bit harder to manipulate. And to your point, saying, you know, yes, I do agree that, you know, $1 million can move the market significantly. However, in Bitcoin's case, you also have to understand that just because there are bigger players with bigger pockets to move the market, that does not mean you manipulate the market. That happens everywhere, right? I mean, yes, gold is quote unquote manipulated, right? But bigger players who actually push the prices down don't really, I don't think that they're trying to manipulate the market.
Sure, they're using what they got to profit. Yeah, I mean, there's that side of the coin.
If I had bigger weight to move the market, I mean, especially a shitcoin, I definitely would, right? And I think the bigger institutions do the same.
And to play the devil's advocate, look at Tether and look what's happening with the Tether exchanges. All right, that is
arbitrage galore.
And people call it an arbitrage opportunity. It is a great arbitrage opportunity because if you have $100,000 and you go buy, if you go buy on Coinbase and then you sell on Bitfinex and then you get more of that Tether, now Tether just opened its redeeming process, but it's minimum of $100,000, right?
Right.
So
if you're able to buy at 96 cents and redeem for $1, that's not so bad.
Exactly. It's not bad at all. And that is what you call textbook manipulation, right? With the Tether exchanges, that arbitrage opportunity shouldn't exist in a traditional stable market. I shouldn't be able to buy gold on one exchange for 1,400 and another exchange for 2,000. That's ridiculous. Even though the spread isn't that big. And speaking of that,
got a $50 spread right now.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, where's all the gold and precious metal bugs here? Because everything is pretty bad. Rob, you see, silver's about to hit under $14. It was at $38.
If you read my book, I was telling people to buy it at $3 and it went up to 50. So, for people that listened, it was good.
Yeah, and then gold. Look at gold. Gold isn't very stable right now. You know what holds its value better than gold? Postage stamps.
Well, of course.
Stamps hold their value better than gold, right?
Yeah.
And so when people are thinking, hey, let me diversify my assets, and hey, I don't trust the markets, let me move over to precious metals, or let me move over to this digital asset class, Bitcoin, right? Are they actually smart? Is it good to diversify in things that are right now historically in this 10-year bull run? Gold has had a little fluctuation, but now, and gold and silver are now dipping a little bit.
Yeah. Well, global markets as a whole are taking a beating. So you have to take that into context too. I mean, even though the dollar is strong, overall, the Chinese stock market has been taking a beating. So has the Japanese, so has the American. Those are like the three big leaders, and German DAX too, right? So it's no surprise that, oil in the United States, crude oil is taking a beating. Gold is taking a beating, as you said, so is silver. I don't really see, this market as a whole. I mean, if you look at everything as a whole, yeah, I'm not surprised everything is going down. I mean, money cycles, right? When money's being pulled from one asset, it's being pulled from others too. No one wants to be losing money in one area and be, stable in another.
I filled up gas for $2.45 in 2018 in Pennsylvania.
I was like, where? Not in California.
Not in California. No, we have that. We have that.
Like $6.
Yeah, exactly. But in Jersey and Pennsylvania and big port cities, these are still, and big railway cities where it's easy to get oil and gas essentially. It's very, very cheap, so it's good for the consumer. So what should I be doing? Should I be starting to buy barrels of oil and just holding them in my basement? Or what should I be doing now? Should I start loading up on gold and silver? Because it doesn't look like that turnarounds may actually be coming, right? With the dollar so strong, but everyone says, hey, we're still haven't found our bottom, or we haven't seen that proper correction in the market, even in the stock market right now. So we do anticipate that the NASDAQ and S&P 500 are going to take NASDAQ, the Dow Jones and S&P 500 are going to be taking a little bit more of a beating. But where should people, not a financial advice, but where should people diversify their assets? Should they go into precious metals? Should they go into commodities? So what should they do?
Like I've always said, man, true wealth comes from the ground, right? So you've got real estate. So that's where like 90-something% of all people made their money and kept their money, right? And passed it on generation to generation. That's why I own a lot of real estate. The real estate, gold, silver, it's taking a hit. It's obviously manipulated. It's pushed down. It costs more to mine silver than it's worth. It's a consumable thing. But, true wealth comes from the ground. So for me, that's what I look at, is I look at real world assets that God gives us, that is, safe haven for our cash of sorts. Like real estate, you're always going to need to pay rent. You're always going to need a roof over your head. You're always going to need a bathroom to take your crap. You're always going to need all that, right? So
Dude,
as safe as it
Not in
gets.
India, you just poo in the streets.
I've seen your bathroom, man. You got a garden hose with a freaking sprayer on. You're in the United States now. It's okay.
Oh man.
Part of this is a US problem. So I see a lot of the US investors investing in emerging countries and real estate overseas, and our real estate is quite strong in Australia. And plus, we can put money in the bank and earn a few % a year anyway. So what you're talking about is more of a US problem.
Yeah.
I think it may be a U.S. problem. And just to comment on somebody who left a comment, I'm not your financial advisor. Do not invest in postage stamps. That is not what I'm trying to say. All right.
There's a guy named Jay Crypto Minded. What's up, buddy? He's like, government can take your land, intimate domain. Yeah, well, yeah, they
domain,
have that, but government could ban crypto. Government could do this. Government can do that. But if you look from the dawn of time to now, real estate's been a pretty good asset class.
Yeah.
They
Also,
want their taxes.
Yeah. To add on to Crypto Beadles, the only commodity that I actually invest in is water, and the only other person who actually invests that I know of who's a big player in the market is Michael Burry. Michael Burry too, who is the person who actually predicted the 2008 financial crisis. He tried to warn the feds, and they just disregarded him. So I'm gonna follow that guy.
Yeah, that guy's amazing.
Yeah, he seriously is.
And it's not intimate domain. Intimate domain would be like prima nocta. So it's imminent domain.
I wasn't going to be a dick and correct the guy.
Okay.
I knew what he meant.
Right.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah,
but realistically, how often is it going to be that you're going to be subject to eminent domain? I mean, depending on where you buy it. I mean, obviously, if you're right next to
an easement. That's an easement law. It's like, hey, your house, your front yard goes out into the street. We need access to put, to widen the road. Right. They take a chunk of your land, give you their idea of market price.
Yeah, right.
That happens all the time. It happens all the time because people were, saying, oh, that piece of land's worth $20 million. So that sucks. But I mean, in a country like the U.S., you don't hear about the government seizing land left and right unless you're obviously like, some kind of, drug dealer or something like that, right? As long as you're paying your taxes and doing things right, you're usually pretty safe. It's a pretty solid asset class in my viewpoint. So that's all.
I mean, just look at China, guys. If you go down to Irvine, which is a little bit south of Los Angeles, there's entire neighborhoods that are empty that just are bought by Chinese citizens. Entire neighborhoods. I'm telling you, huge amounts of there's entire skyscraper buildings in Vancouver that have just all these condominiums are just being bought by Chinese investors because they can't own land in their own country, right?
Yeah.
So they offshore it, and it's essentially a tax gain. And I know in Australia it's a similar thing. You guys are much closer to the Asian heartland than we are. I know it's a similar thing there, but Australia still is pretty underdeveloped compared to even the United States is underdeveloped. There's still so much land. Like if you go out to Pennsylvania, like Kansas, Pennsylvania, any of these rural areas, there's still a lot more room for development. And I'm not saying, hey, let's go out and destroy the wildlife and keep building there, but we have room for expansion. While places like China, where half the country is mountainous, and India, where it's already completely overpopulated, and most of the land isn't fertile. There's only certain fertile parts of the land. They're having a huge gridlock of land issues. But here in the United States, Canada, where we do have freedom to buy property and actually own property, even though our estate taxes are absurd, but they're still not as bad as China. But I still think it is a good value to buy real estate. But what I've been seeing, my dad's actually trying to sell his house. He's saying that the prices they haven't even recovered since 2008. Is that true?
It depends where you live, but yeah, for sure. And the market's probably going to go down even more. But the U.S. is basically made up of two coastlines. You got the east and the west coast, and then you got Texas, right? And then you got what they call the flyover states in between. I mean, you could populate the crap out of that. I mean, there's just so much land there, right? I mean, but you're right. No, the market has not recovered since 2008. San Francisco is still extremely expensive. It's $1,320, $1,340 a square foot. Where if you go to Seattle, it's like $320 a square foot. But they pay the same. So you're going to see San Francisco prices drop, you know, because they have to compete with places like Seattle that pay the same. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
You're telling me to own a box of land that's like $15,000? Oh, my God. In San Francisco?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. A square foot, yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, well, don't buy stamps, buy land, right?
As they say, they're not making any more of it.
Making more of it.
Dubai is, right?
Yeah, seriously.
They just I just saw the a whole documentary on the reclamation. There you go. Reclamation. Thank you. Reclamation of land in Amsterdam, where there's like twice as much land in Amsterdam now, and of course New Orleans. New Orleans isn't supposed to exist.
They're pushing the seawall back out.
Yeah, New Orleans isn't supposed to exist. Yep. You know, all of God's nature is trying to destroy that city, right? But we just keep building walls in order to keep that city afloat. They build when they bury people, they build them 6 feet over. They put them in big concrete pillars, right? So I mean,
it's their apartment complex.
Those are extreme. Those are extreme examples, like Amsterdam and New Orleans. But you know, and of course Dubai. That's the most extreme.
New Orleans, yeah, they build them up because if they put them in the ground, then the water, you know, takes them away. So. In New Orleans,
crazy just to see a coffin just like floating down the street.
Floating down the road. Man, they used to have the bodies that would do that because the groundwater was, you know, it basically just pushed the bodies up. So that's why they put them, you know, above ground in those cement, you know, monoliths or whatever you call them.
That's terrifying.
Man, so I just wanted to go back. Somebody had asked, what do we think about, is ETC dead? I didn't see this tweet. I was actually just looking at, they had posted the link. The ETH Classic team apparently just said on the 2nd, public asking here, would the ETC community help them by donating money to the donation address? Yes, no. And then 11 hours ago, unfortunately, we cannot continue work in the current situation, has to announce shutdown of our current activities. That's pretty crazy considering that it's a token that is currently traded
on Coinbase. And Coinbase Pro. And that's Charles Hoskinson because he's still freaking working it.
That's right.
He has 2 masters. You know, he's got Cardano, and then he's got that.
Yeah. So that's a little.
And did you guys see the recent Dan Larimer tweet?
Yeah, he basically wants to start another business.
Yeah, he wants to start another currency. He wants to start another company.
I got you on BitShares. Got you on Steemit. Wrecked it on EOS. I'm gonna go start something else, guys. I've got this formula figured out. I know how to make billions now.
Honestly, like I'm investing whatever he shits out because obviously it does pretty well. And then as soon as he leaves, you know, it takes a dump. I know Steemit is near bankruptcy, right?
Yeah, they had to lay off a bunch of people.
Nothing he has ever built works. Nothing.
Steemit works. Steemit actually
No, it doesn't.
Works.
That thing's a pile of crap. Stop it. Come on, dude. How many times can you like before you're banned? Can you upload a video to it? Can you really interact with the community? Yeah, it's decentralized. You know, yeah, it's got, you know, a currency mechanism behind it. But dude, it's not Facebook. And until we have a Facebook on the blockchain that works as good as Facebook, it don't work, man, because nobody's going to use it. You're never going to get the masses to come over to use Steemit. Steemit sucks. Us blockchain guys, we use it because we're trying to embrace the tech and we're hoping it'll get better. We're hoping it's going to be better than Facebook. But come on. Let's face it. I use it every single day. It's horrible.
That's true. That's true. But things like BAT, you know, those are working. You know, Brave Intention.
Yeah.
There
you go.
You know,
and that's something.
That wasn't Dan Larimer.
I try to tell. Like that's when we were talking earlier about, you know, going home for Christmas and telling everybody to buy Bitcoin last year, blah blah blah. This year, I'm just like, look, you don't even have to buy anything. Just download the browser and use it. It works. Like just use it. And, you know, hopefully eventually they'll start getting paid cryptocurrency and then have some interest in adopting the technology, or at least understanding how it works a little bit.
So what are your opinions on decentralized internet? You know, Substratum's going through a second ICO.
Scam.
So what do we feel about decentralized internet and decentralized? I mean, I do like the whole aspect of decentralized internet and decentralized storage and processing, Sonam, SIA, but nothing's really taking off, and
Right.
and especially since there's no liability there. You know, if the network does go down or people start disassociating their nodes or misconstruing their data, it's not like Amazon Web Services where they kind of guarantee, like, hey, we're not going to shut down your data and you're going to have access to your data. Because imagine just throwing like a terabyte of information onto the cloud and then not having access to it anymore. You know, because Sia had a bad crypto winter. You know, that's absurd.
Isn't that the whole point of these things, is that the ecosystem is supposed to be able to self-support and self-regulate? And unfortunately, that's the trouble, is just
nothing works.
we haven't seen enough adoption into a system that, yeah, exactly. Like, unfortunately, you know, Steemit is entirely reliant on more people adopting and using the technology, right? That's
they fired 70% of their team because they couldn't make payroll. I'm just saying, if it's decentralized, you know, you kind of need a core group of people to make it work. Once it works, people will embrace it, right? But it never really worked. And so that's all I was getting at. But as far as decentralized internet, it sounds great. It sounds amazing. But like Snay said, what happens when you lose all your information? And then to actually put a decentralized internet out there, people have to be pretty freaking tech savvy, right? They got to figure out everything that they don't know. They have to know really freaking quick to be able to use it. There's nothing super simple about it. Now, you know, basic attention token like BAT, the Brave browser, that's pretty sweet. That's a good step in the right direction. Elastos, they're doing some really cool things, you know, basically integrating into hardware devices all over the world and, you know, kind of, you know, spanning out that way. So there's definitely a future there. There's definitely going to be a use case for it. There's a lot of really cool things going that direction, but we're just not there yet, right? So right now we basically need customer service that says, hey, my Wi-Fi is not working. You know, I can't stream, I can't broadcast, I can't do this, I can't do that. With a decentralized internet, that's going to be freaking tough. So that's the missing piece, is the customer support. That's what we got to figure out. So hopefully things like Elastos will end up working. Yeah, but Substratum, they're running another freaking ICO. It's like, hey guys, we took $20 million. We spent it all, so now we're going to do something else. Can you pay us again?
When something goes wrong in a decentralized ecosystem of any nature, who do you blame? Like, who do you point fingers to? Who can I sue? I'm American, so I sue. So who do I sue for that, right? Because it's, you know, it's hard coded and everything is kind of visible to everybody. But when there's not enough support for the network and things start to collapse on themselves, like there's a big problem of customer liability and liability in general in decentralized ecosystems. So I think that's what's keeping a lot of people away from using these things in the first place, right?
Yeah, we need accountability. I'd much rather use a centralized platform for now.
Cool. All right. So we've been on for about an hour now, and I'm trying to think of a good last question. Jason, do you have any good last questions?
Well, this is specifically, I just wanted to ask this because all of us have been in this space a long time, and it's something that's thrown around a lot. Do your own research. Everybody always says, do your own research. I'm not a financial advisor. Don't just do what I say. What does that really mean? Let's just, we can touch on this lightly and just say, what does it really mean? What is it specifically that you're looking for when you look into a project other than a solid development team and a practical use case? What else are you looking for?
You want to go in order? So I'll let, you want me to go next?
Yeah, go for it, Rob.
All right. The first thing is the idea. Does it make sense? Right? That right there tells you everything you need to know. Well, not everything, obviously, but is it a good idea? Would people actually use it? Would you use it? Right? And then if that makes sense, then you move on to, you know, the competition in the market, right? So if it's like, okay, this is a good idea, but there's a much greater chance of one of these big guys coming in and just crushing this guy, that's probably not a good thing. And say you overcome that, then you go to the team and you look at the team and you're like, okay, this team here shows that they have, you know, proficiency in building businesses and delivering, you know, solid technologies. I think these guys can actually do what they say that they can do. Then you move on and you look at, like, you know, the social media. Do they have any kind of following? Then you look and you see, you know, as far as, are they being SEC compliant, right? So that would be kind of like, you know, the last piece before you ever invest would be, are they SEC compliant? Especially if you're in the United States, and most of our audience is, right? So, you know, if they're not doing things by the book, you can't give them money because you may lose all your money. So those would be some of the, you know, some of the basic things that I would look at first.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies that have kind of been pinpointed out, like Paragon and a lot of other companies that basically were never utility tokens in the first place, and now are, you know, having to force register a lot of their onboarded investors and things like that. You know, pretty much, what's the opposite of premature? Post-mature? Late? Yeah.
It's too late, man.
Yeah, too late.
It's done.
Yeah, exactly. And so I completely agree with that. You know, you definitely want to make sure that they're regulatory compliant and they at least have some sort of substance behind them, right? Whether there's building something or they have something going on before they ask me for money, you know, because that's the terrifying part of 2017, where a lot of people got in, you know, with really nice pitch decks and really sexy websites. And where are those companies now? You know, it's almost like a child actor. Where are they now? You know, they're nowhere. They're drug addled, riddled, you know, in hospital and rehab somewhere in Miami, right? So.
Yeah, that's all Brock Pierce, right? So he owns EOS and Block One and all the other Tether.
Yeah. I think it's your guys' go. Bottom of the screen.
Come on.
Sure. I mean, we kind of preach this in our community, man. You know, Cryptosomniacs, like, do your own research. Really understand what technicals mean, right? Not just like looking at a chart and drawing fibs randomly. Understanding what fundamentals mean. You know, as Crypto Beadles also pointed out, you know, competitive advantages of projects, teams, use cases. And also, you know, one thing that we like to look at is where exactly is smart money going, you know? So some of our calls in our channel, we kind of base it on how other investment funds and what are they, you know, betting their chips on. So, you know, all these things put together, I think you'll know that you'll have a good project underway of what to invest in. So.
Very cool.
Yeah, a lot of them have good ideas, but so what the stage I am at, I like to so I look at the team first, and I like to have a conversation with the team. Before I used to look at the documents, the website, the other things. It's been a waste of time. So now when people approach me, I say, I'm not reading that. Let's just have a quick meeting. I'll get to know you first. If I like it, if I'm comfortable, then I'll start looking at the literature and the other documentation, see if it all makes sense. And then the other parts, regulation and all these things all matter what they're doing. So I like to find all that first from a face-to-face and build some rapport before I start going deeper into the documentation.
Nice. I would agree with all of this. I would just add to it that I would want to
say, no, you're all wrong. You're all wrong.
Yeah, exactly. We're all wrong. No, but I would add to it. You know, I like
you throw the dice and you go
with an MVP. And is there a reason, specifically, especially when talking about crypto projects, is there a reason that this project has a blockchain? There's been a number of, I've read a lot of like great ideas that didn't really need a blockchain, right? And it's like, or that the token economics of the project wasn't really sound. And you know, that may be difficult to assess if you haven't read a ton of white papers, but if you can read through and see and you're like, this doesn't make sense. So those are all the things that I would add on top of that. Is just is there an incentive to actually hold on and use the token within the ecosystem, and then, you know, have they already built something before they want my money? Yeah.
I would say that 98% of all these things on CoinMarketCap are straight up securities because you're relying on them to build value for you, so your cryptocurrency goes up in value. All of these were pooled monies, right? We gave them a bunch of money. It all went to a common pool. We're counting on that team to push up the price of the token. So look out, guys.
For sure, for sure. And I guess I'll round it out, guys. Thank you so much, Crypto Beadles, for joining us here today, and Amal and James as usual. And
it was a Monarch Monday. We got the top 3 guys up on the screen, you know, right here.
So make sure you guys set your stop losses. Make sure you keep your funds safe. You can keep your funds safe by downloading the Monarch wallet on iOS and Android. I don't want to sound like an infomercial. And guys, if you do want to join our community, we have a free Discord lounge, and of course the advantage if you are interested in that program and you know, having James and Amal there 24/7 support. You can use the link link above, cryptosomniac.com/discord1. It's completely free. and cryptosomniac.com/CSA if you're interested. And yeah, I really do appreciate everything here, guys. Take it easy, and peace out, y'all.
It was fun. God bless everybody.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks for coming on.